It's the Morning Drive. My name's Tim Elliott. This is the show for professionals and the business-minded, and we're going to be talking about real estate in a couple of moments. I'm going to introduce you to a man who knows a lot more than I do. I'll tell you that. Find us on the website. You can listen live there, mirabusiness.fm. Everything we do is there. You can watch, you can listen on YouTube. And or Twitch. X is where you'll get the news. Instagram is the shorts, and LinkedIn to know more about our guests. Mario Volpe is Senior Vice President of Investment Advisory at Allegiance Real Estate. He's worked in the property sector for a number of years in London and Dubai. See what I did there, Mario? Nice to see you.
Hello, Tim. Lovely to be here.
It's good to have you here. I know that it's around about 40 years in the industry. Is that right?
Well, I'm 2 days away from my 41st anniversary.
Are you really?
1st of October 1984 I started.
Wow. Well, congratulations. And congratulations as well, by the way. I hear there's just been a little promotion at work. Is that right?
Well, I've changed jobs, and it's a very, very fancy title, I have to say. The work still remains the same. It's a tough old gig, and now everybody's going to say, get your violins out, Mary. The estate agent is talking. But, off air we were talking about, being nice and understanding the other person. And, I think real estate gets a bit of a rough end of the stick sometimes. Certain people treat agents really as if they're two a penny, and just unfortunately because there are so many and the competition is so high, I guess they feel they have that right to do. But I would always say, be nice to everybody, and I'm talking about agents to clients, obviously, and clients to agents, because you don't know exactly what's going on in people's lives. And everybody's trying to do their best. We're all here for one reason and one reason alone, and that's to provide for our families. If not here, then back in our home countries.
It's a good thing to remember, actually. That's a relatively recent kind of concept, that, isn't it? Think about how somebody else is feeling or what they're going through on a particular day before you shout at them. It's easy, isn't it, to look at real estate agents and put you all in that box. Not perhaps the most popular people sometimes, or at least that's what the surveys tell us. But I do think, let me put this to you, when you find a good real estate agent and it's something that you're interested in, you buy a house and you maybe think about buying another house, if you've got a good one, stay with them.
100%, but also it's not just a good one in terms of what that person can offer you. It is also about longevity, because you can find a good estate agent, a good real estate broker, and you do the transaction well, and you're happy, and everything works out. Now, of course, people buy real estate a lot less than they would buy, perhaps food or some other luxuries, and therefore to come back and want to do business with that individual, you might find that he or she has moved on. It's quite an intransient business, and therefore longevity is very important. So not only to find a good agent, but a good agent that's still doing it and still here, because you've got to remember Dubai's gone through good times, bad times, good times again, and those ups and downs do sort the wheat from the chaff. It's a place that can be quite expensive, obviously, to keep going, especially if as an agent, and you're on commission only, you only do a deal now and then. So it's tricky. So longevity is very, very important. I've now been here for 17 years, and honestly, I thought this gig was going to be 3 years max. 17 years later, I'm still here, still plying the trade. And the funny thing is, I do a couple of one-liners, especially when I'm interviewing people. Invariably, they are a lot younger than I am, clearly. But I always start with, I've been in real estate longer than you've been alive, which is a good one.
And also the truth.
Yes.
But you've been here 17 years. You've been writing a column in The National. Your real estate column in The National has been, 13 years, 14 years?
Yeah, about 13, 14 years. Again, even that I thought was something that was going to last only 3 or 4 months. I still remember the sort of meeting with the National, and I was with a company called Clutton's at the time. Clutton's then closed, and I now think it's been taken up by Savills, so it's part of the Savills group. British run, obviously very traditional. They had chartered surveyors, they had commercial agents, they had residential agents, and they wanted to do this column for basically to cover all aspects. But there was a marketing guy, me, and the lady from the National, and it was super embarrassing because I was there, but they were talking as if I wasn't there. The National would say, well, we would like Mario to write this. And then the marketing guy would say, yeah, that's fine, but what about if it's a commercial question? We would want our commercial expert to write about it. Yeah, that's fine, but we want Mario to write it. And they kept going on the same thing. And I go, guys, I am actually here. I can speak for myself. But at the time, Clutton's didn't take it because they couldn't get their head around the fact that they didn't think I had the scope of all the other asset classes, perhaps, which is fair enough, I guess. But that's what research is about as well. You know, it's not a live interview. You do have time to look it up as well.
But that's also being on the ground, isn't it? Being part of the, I was going to say furniture. That's not quite what I mean to say. But you know, you are working in a market. You have connections. You have people you can talk to.
Yeah, and actually this weekend something very strange happened. I got an email this weekend from one of the partners of Hadif and Partners, which is a local firm of lawyers here. Yeah. Very, a professional law firm here. And he wrote to me just saying that he was super impressed with my response to a previous article or letter that I'd written for the National, and he'd like to meet me. I don't know what intentions he has, but I hope it's not a legal thing.
I'm sure they're honourable.
Well, the fact he said he was impressed must mean good rather than,
Well, you would think so, wouldn't you? But I mean, this, as much as anything, I guess the National column has offered you a profile over the last few years. But I also think if you're going to write in a newspaper, a national newspaper, for 13 or 14 years, there must be something to what you say.
Yeah, and I've often said that as well, because the questions that I get do tend to repeat themselves a little bit or somewhat. And I used to think, are people not listening to my answers? They're not reading them. But then I realized that there are new people coming all the time. And obviously people don't necessarily, do that research. They're very much what's happening today. So, which is good because the answer is already stuck in my mind. Mm-hmm. It's already there. And when I look back, I've done over 700 articles for the National, and myself, along with another lady who does financial or money, Karen. She's I think started at a similar time. We're one of the two that's still going, and the National did have some restructuring some years back, and a few people were asked not to bother, or perhaps they weren't popular. But real estate is always popular.
Sure.
I think in the UK they have something called property porn, if you're allowed to say that. Where people look up property online just for the sake of it. So it's very close to our hearts.
Yep.
It's our nest, it's our home, and of course it's our investment. So it's always going to be a very popular subject. And of course, when you then add problems with that subject, i.e., my landlord's kicking me out, what should I do, what are my rights? But I also get letters from landlords as well, by the way. It's not just, rogue landlords. I have letters, I'm showing my age, sort of emails, saying, my tenant's an absolute nightmare. What can I do? So where possible, I advise from a legal standpoint of view. And my caveat is I'm not a lawyer. I'm a real estate guy. But I know the law, at least I know the law, unless they make some changes. And being up to date is very, very important. And I think that's what I always say to my agents, to keep themselves updated, because people expect you to know. And we don't know everything, of course.
Absolutely, and that goes back to the argument for, once you have a great real estate broker, stick with that real estate broker. The thing I have is, you're talking about being up to date there. How on earth do you keep up to date with the property market here in the UAE? Because let's put it this way, dynamic isn't really even close, is it? It moves at a pace that's very, very hard to get up with. There are launches all the time, when new developments are being discussed at work or over dinner. Do you sometimes catch yourself thinking, now, which one is that again? What are you talking about there?
Yeah, it's true. Look, as a broker, we either are invited to property launches. Sometimes they're very, very fancy gala dinners, celebrities, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Others, you just go to the sales office and you see the model and you see the salesperson talk it through. And other times they actually come to you. And yes, you can get into that burnout, to be fair, because there's so much information and you use up so much time trying to learn and understand it, when literally they sell out so quickly anyway, number one. And number two, the product knowledge is one thing. You don't really have much time to actually go out there and sell it because you're forever learning about other developers. So my advice to everybody, especially other agents, is not necessarily to dance with every single developer from small to large. It doesn't mean to say you shouldn't have small developers as well. Now, obviously with escrow involved, it doesn't matter. The escrow account is there. Everybody's money is protected. So whether they have a history or not, the risk factor, certainly in getting your money back should things go wrong, is much better than it used to be, especially in 2008 when I first started. But yeah, there's so much. I tend to read a lot online, purely and simply also due to the podcast that I do. I do that twice a week. I mean, that's like a job in itself. And you have to remain up to date. You have to remain relevant, I think is the right word, because otherwise people just switch off. It would be really super boring. And I always look for what's different about this particular project. What are they offering? Some people are going down the wellness route, making sure that people are looked after. So it's not just living there, but wellness is high up. Others are on a similar vein, but open spaces, verdant spaces, greenery, which when you think about the UAE, you don't normally have green in your mind. You have, sand color in your mind and hard landscaping rather than soft. So developers are trying to reinvent themselves to be better than the next person. And then you have, and I'm going to segue nicely into here, a developer like Damac who actually has recently, over the last few months, launched the Chelsea residences, where they are bringing in, there's the first football-themed development, which sold out very well.
How did I know you'd mention Chelsea Football Club within the first 15 minutes of talking to you?
Well, I need the listeners to know that I am the Assistant Secretary to the official Chelsea Supporters Club here in the UAE, which is a very important job because the Secretary is in London. So I am the big cheese here. And we do get together at the Belgian Beer Cafe in Barsha Heights, the Grand Millennium Hotel, to watch Chelsea, which we have not been doing very well recently. As I'm sure you're going to allude to. But going back to real estate, the fact that they have chosen Chelsea, the world champions, to develop what can only look like a sort of son of Royal Atlantis design, that sort of Jenga design, looks amazing. And pretty much the whole development is sold out. So that's probably because it's Chelsea, isn't it?
I guess it would have to be, wouldn't it? It wouldn't work with my team, West Ham United, I don't think, but that's a different story. But it is a really interesting thing, the collaboration aspect of some of the things that particular real estate agent does. But it points to the fact that you have to set your stall out slightly differently now because the competition in Dubai is such that if you don't, you're not going to do very well. The competition is huge.
Yeah, I mean, if we go back to that particular development, that's what we call branded residences.
Yeah.
And branded residences, whether it's a football team, haute couture, jewelry, watchmakers, cars even, has definitely taken off here in the UAE, specifically in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. And of course, to a degree, now Ras Al Khaimah as well is jumping on that bandwagon. So they've got the largest pipeline in the world of branded residences. And so I think that's one of the ways that some of these developers have tried to set themselves apart by aligning themselves with these world-renowned names. Actually, I'm really surprised that we haven't had a Louis Vuitton branded one or a Prada or Gucci, which I'm sure could be coming. I've said it before, but it's like anything, you just have to get the right partnerships going. And there is one developer who, in the past, I mean, it's the truth, so I'm not casting aspersions on this particular developer, but I'm not going to mention names, was perhaps more regarded as lower end of the market or more entry level, if I can put it that way. But then they aligned themselves with larger brands like Bugatti and Mercedes and and Jacob and Co. and places like that, and brands like that. And now all of a sudden, they are known as the luxury end. So that's a success story in itself, that they have reimagined themselves, they've pivoted, and now are no longer entry level and a more upmarket level.
It's an interesting discussion, because it always seems to me that real estate and luxury kind of work hand in hand here in Dubai in lots of ways. If you look at the trajectory that either has taken over the years, it's been a pretty good few years for real estate, hasn't it? The last 5 or so.
Yeah, I mean, you can say that. Well, I actually started to see improvements in 2020, literally every month, I would say, from around May 2020 onwards. Now, when you consider we were in lockdown in March,
yep.
So in April we were released, for want of a better word. You didn't have to have a permit to get your groceries, which incidentally agents were using to actually do viewings. Little story, little secret there for you. But anyway,
I can imagine.
So I can tell you that May was better than April, June was better than May, July was better than June, and so on all the way up. But if we look at the real turning point, I think November 2020 was the real start of this bull run. Then came 2021, and literally every month has been a record. More transactions, more numbers, more sales values. Everything has just been going up and up. And of course, now and then you hear these stories of corrections, stabilization. I never like to use the word correction because it always shows that there's a problem. You correct something, it's because there's an issue. I think stabilization is a better word, and clearly what goes up has to come down. You cannot have a marketplace that continually just goes up and up and up and up and up, and because in the end, it'll just be unsustainable, and certainly people wouldn't be able to live here. So some cooling off helps. Moody's and Fitch have said that in the next couple of years, perhaps that's going to happen here. Personally, I think the fundamentals are too strong at the moment. We've just crossed the 4 million mark. Abu Dhabi actually overtook us. Abu Dhabi overtook Dubai in terms of population. I think they were over 4 million about a month or so beforehand, which actually surprised me, to be honest, when I first heard it. But the fact is, it's growing, and we're not necessarily just talking about millionaires, because that's fueling the luxury market. We're talking about ordinary men and women with families who want to perhaps start up businesses, which is super easy to do here, and the quality of life is amazing. And honestly, it just makes me laugh sometimes when I see online some of these people still bashing Dubai. And there was an article recently where some Emirati actually replied with an open letter. Yeah. And often these people have only been here like for 2 or 3 days, and they don't even know what they're talking about. But the fact is that I do think this bull run is probably going to continue for a little bit longer. Beyond 28, who knows? I mean, there will be some of these completions projects handing over that will be delayed. That's natural. Some are even handing over early. This is another trend that some developers are doing, trying to hand over early, which actually it's good to be on time. Being early isn't actually that great, because often the investor has budgeted for having to pay a certain amount at a certain time, and if all of a sudden he's got to pay like 40% on handover, which is 3 or 4 or even 6 months early,
that messes up your cash flow.
He's got a problem, hasn't he? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
So being on time and perhaps a little bit late is okay. Well, being on time obviously is perfect. Being early could potentially be a problem, but some developers sing about it as if it's a really good thing, and I personally don't think it is.
It's an unusual thing. You don't hear it very often, do you? I was going to ask you how you felt about recent reports that it's going to cool down, it's not going to cool down. I never know quite who to believe. There's a report out this morning that the bull run's going to continue. There was a newspaper article last week quoting a report that things will definitely cool down. Who do you believe in these situations?
I guess it also depends on the journey that you're on, whether you're an investor, whether you're an end user, and whether you're an institutional investor as well, if you're making a one-off purchase. Because I always say timing in business is everything. But in answer to your question, I mean, in business, you should trust nobody, really, to be fair. Do your due diligence. It depends also the type of product that you're buying, the asset class. If I tell you that apartments, I'm going to say it, pretty much saturated. Lots and lots and lots of apartments coming on stream.
Yeah.
Whereas if you look at villas and townhouses, not so much. So actually, if you're an investor and you have the money to buy a townhouse, I would buy a townhouse over an apartment, purely and simply because it's more scarce, and therefore there's being less of them. If somebody wants to rent one, you can command a better rent, and therefore your ROI is better. So it depends on many factors, Tim, as to who's not so much telling the truth, but who's more likely to deliver the truth. I mean, I fall into that category as well. I mean, I'm saying that this bull run should run further, but I'm basing it on the fundamentals of what we're being told. So if that information is wrong, then the whole thing just collapses. But I can see from the ground that the appetite is still there and continues to be still there, from not just obviously people who have dipped their toe in, they like it and they're going to come in for another nibble, but obviously new people. New people tend to rent to start off with, to try it, especially if they're coming here with work, etc. But of course, the people that have been renting before, who are seeing these stories of prices going up, and that FOMO kicks in, and therefore they are the next buyers. So a lot of existing or long-term tenants, are becoming buyers, and sometimes they're staying in rented accommodation but buying an investment. So they're not necessarily buying to live in it; they're buying as an investment. So they've got something, but they continue living in perhaps a smaller unit, which keeps their rent down. So the scope is there, and I think. Who really knows is the answer. Wait and see. What goes up has to come down. I'll repeat that. The cooling off or the stabilization is a good thing. We're probably starting to see a little bit of that in apartments and therefore obviously in renting for apartments as well as for sales. But if you're in a villa, then that's a ball that's definitely running.
Dubai and the UAE, increasingly Abu Dhabi and obviously Ras Al Khaimah, is an increasingly attractive proposition to people. There is a great deal of confidence, isn't there, in the country, and it has been made. It's far easier than it ever was to set up a business. There's the potential of the golden visa, which allows you to obviously make a few more plans, to base yourself for a little bit longer, to think sort of long-term in family terms and business terms. And that's not likely to change anytime soon.
No, and I think the golden visa actually has been the catalyst to keep this good feeling going, because we all know Dubai is the UAE is an amazing place to live. It's always 1 and 2 with Abu Dhabi in terms of safety, technology, infrastructure. You name it, it's there. We all know Dubai doesn't have, or certainly the GDP for Dubai in oil is very small. I think it's 1 or 2%. Don't quote me. That's just off the top of my head. So it's trade, tourism, and hospitality. These are the 3 pillars now. And they're doing that very, very well. And even now, you can see in the height of the summer how many tourists were actually still here in July and August, when normally, the sane people tend to go to either Europe or cooler climes. So yes, families do leaving perhaps the husbands behind, or the other way around to work, and then they go and join them later on for 1 or 2 weeks. But they're doing an amazing job. It's a fantastic place to live. It's innovative, and like we said perhaps at the beginning, it's run like a business, and in doing so, the benefit of the residents, the locals, etc., is at the heart. This golden visa has allowed people to live and to plan living. Putting those roots down for at least 10 years and not having to worry about it. And you can sponsor your family. And I don't know whether you know, but you can even sponsor your parents, but only one set. You can't have both sets. So the wife and the husband would have to decide who they like most.
It's the old joke, isn't it? Very much depends on the mother-in-law, I
Correct.
guess. Yeah, that's the truth. But that's kind of the secret sauce, isn't it? Really. Can we talk a little bit about, we've got 5 minutes or so, what's interesting for the second half of the year? I don't know, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, I don't want figures, just your kind of overview of investor hotspots perhaps for the second half of this year, or by the end of this year, because we're nearly into Q4.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazingly.
Look, this year has flown by, and in a blink of an eye, we're going to have National Day, and then it's Christmas, and then we'll be celebrating the new year. In terms of hotspots, I think you've just got to look at infrastructure. You've got to look at where the developers are investing. And I said it at this morning's team meeting. Look at what developers are doing, because they have their finger on the pulse. They are the ones that will give you the litmus paper test as to what the market is doing. And if they start slowing down, then that's when things are going to slow down. But in terms of areas, I think you've got to look at, from an off-plan point of view, you've got to look at Dubai Islands, Maritime City. The airport will be closing in early 2030. I say closing, obviously they'll be shifting to Al Maktoum, and that's another area. Dubai South, Emaar South, Expo City, the proximity to Abu Dhabi, and the metro lines, and the existing metro lines and the new metro lines, all this infrastructure follow the transport. You've got Etihad Rail now. You've got vertiports that were talked about. You're talking about infrastructure. Just this morning, the road, the old Emirates Road or whatever that is now going to have more lanes, which means the journey time to and from Ras Al Khaimah is going to be halved. I mean, that means that people can work in Dubai and live in Ras Al Khaimah, whereas before it was a bit of a journey. What was it? An hour and 15 minutes. It's still not too bad when you consider what the Brits have to get through when it comes to commuting. True. So the roads here are amazing. They're wide, and yes, we moan about traffic clearly from the Sharjah rush into Dubai and vice versa. But with Etihad Rail coming as well, which is going to link Saudi Arabia all the way up to Oman, I mean that's going to be a game changer in itself as well. You can now work on the train without having to worry about somebody coming up behind you at 100 miles an hour or whatever it is, and you can just relax, work, sleep. And still be there, in a relatively short space of time, if you don't want to go by flying taxi, of course.
Well, that's another thing. We'll park that one for just a second. Do you park a flying taxi? What do you do? Do you hover it? I'm not sure.
I think you do park it on the ground.
You probably do, yeah. I just all these things that are happening. Two things about traffic I always think are really important to remember. People say, I'm stuck in traffic. I always think, no, you're not. You are traffic. Yeah. If you're in it, you're stuck in it, you're traffic. The other thing I think, and this is I'm not sure what you're going to say to this. This is my benchmark for the progress of a city. If the traffic's bad, the city's doing well. And I think that's what we're seeing.
Absolutely. And again, if you're seeing where traditionally the roads are quieter, and obviously they are in the summer because the tourists that come, they tend not to necessarily hire a car. Some do, obviously. But the fact that there is, more traffic even in the summer months, in certain situations, will show that people are here. And if people are here, it means they're either living here or they're spending money here. And that's exactly what this administration, the UAE wants to share. We want to showcase the best of the best. I should be on the tourist board, really, shouldn't I?
You get the job. You've certainly got my vote. But it's a really good point, actually. I'm not necessarily the traffic is bad for any particular reason other than the traffic situation is being worked on. New junctions are being put in, and that adds to the problem. Do you know what? That's really all the time we've got to talk to you today. Unfortunately, Mario Volpe is Senior Vice President of Investment Advisory at Allegiance Real Estate. First time we've talked to you, Mario. Hopefully the first of many. Lovely to have you here. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and hopefully we can talk real estate another time.
I hope we do. Mario Volpe there on The Morning Drive. This is Mira Business FM.
Mira Business FM.